Alright folks, welcome back. My name is Mike. What we're going to do today is going to move this staircase back because we're against code. If you look at the distance from this nose to the beam, we're 64 inches. Up here, we're 74 inches. The code is 80 inches, which is 6 foot 8 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift this back. We're going to convert this from a flux mount to a standard mount staircase, and then we're going to basically put a steel plate here, slide this back over one step, we're going to get to 74 inches. It still doesn't meet code, but it's a historic house. We're going to get some leniency because there's no other way you can put a staircase in this room. And the code does allow you to have a little bit of leniency. Plus it's replaced an existing staircase, which was a lot steeper, so we'll definitely push that through. All right, so step one is we're going to take out these steps. I'm going to number them first before I take them out, so I don't have to do anything. Guess we're putting it back in. Alright folks, step two of this process, I think it's step two, is we're going to hang a metal plate. I got one that's 19 inches long by 32 and a half, I should say, wide. So that's going to allow us to hang our stringers to a standard mount, and we're going to come right about to here. So our stringers will start here. So it will shorten up the staircase distance to get over that beam we had a problem with for as far as headroom. So I got to cut a hole in the ceiling so I can access the back of the LVL, and I'm going to drill through the metal plate, through the wood, and then attach lag bolts. I got 5 lag bolts I'm going to put up there. We got 3/8 inch steel, so it's about 80 pounds. But it's not going to flex or anything, and it definitely have enough support to support the weight, so I'm not worried about that. Folks, next up what I'm going to do is take this piece of plywood, it's 1-inch plywood, and just put it on top of the subfloor upstairs. So that way there, when I put the piece of metal up, I'm not fighting, trying to be like Superman and getting it perfect with my fingers and everything in places. And that would give me a nice gauge. So when I put this piece of steel up, it's going to go up against that. I know it's nice and square where it needs to be, and it's not going to give me any problems. Hey folks, so we had an audio failure, so we're going to put up the steel plate, 3-inch steel plate, putting some Mazdeck on there just to kind of reduce the vibration, fill any small slight voids that we may have, put it also on the header. Then I had my father-in-law help us out, so we drilled 2 holes in the left and right,
and then you're going to see him screw the screws in left and right. So that helps out putting that piece of steel up. And we also had the piece of wood you saw before. It helps us align it really well without having to worry about making sure that everything's perfect without having some kind of support to prevent it from going up too far. And then we have a bore drill that we're drilling in the lag bolts. And we're also finger tightening the nuts on the other side, and that's going through 3 LVLs in the header. So see, we got our third one going in. Just tighten them up, hammering them down a little bit, just to get rid of some of the gap. Then hand tightening in the back. Make sure we're seated really firm. Got the fourth one going in, and you see the fifth one. And you can see that these lag bolts are staggered, so they're not one consistent line going across. That way there you don't crack the wood. And then you're seeing we have an impact wrench that kind of helps out putting these bolts on rather than using a wrench in a confined space like that. Then just tightening it down, making sure it's nice and solid, retightening it, get rid of any loose ends, and there you go. That is very solid through 3 LVLs, and you got a staggered connection. So that is going nowhere.
All right, so we're going to do a number of things today. First thing is to shift this staircase over. We're going to put the stringer back up. We're just going to take some quality measurements just to make sure that everything is set up appropriately. All right, so this is where it needs to be. Look at the laser level, make sure it is level when we did our previous measurement before we hung everything. So just tuning that in right now. All right, so you can see our laser measurement is straight across, so that's good. Now what we're going to do is the cut line. So we know that we're going to move one step over. So one step over is 9 inches. So we're going to put a mark there and go down to the bottom of this steel plate. And we're going to mark 9 inches. Then we're going to take a straight edge. You can use the level to mark the 9 inches. We got that. So now we're going to make sure it's parallel with the steel plate. So the bubble is at the right side. Verify the bubble is in the same place, which it is. So that's our cut line right there. And this cut line will be parallel with the metal plate we put up. Our next step to get this staircase pushed back, we're gonna take this stringer, put it on the table, we're gonna cut it. And then what I'm gonna do is sand this part right here on the floor, so I don't have to deal with that. Trying to get all that nice and sanded with the stringer in the way. So all right, so the next step is to cut this stringer. This is the hard part. So we're going to use our fest tool setup to do that. I have my line drawn. my Festool guide right against the line. Make sure we're 100% on the line. Looks a little crooked, so I'm going to straighten that out. We definitely don't want to make a mistake here at this point. That looks really good. All right, so here's our saw. We're going to set the depth for about 2.5 inches. Distribute my weight a little bit. And this is where I get a little bit nervous because I don't want to make a mistake here at this point because it gets very expensive. So let's just double check everything. I got my line. Everything looks good. Let's start the saw. And that's one of the most dangerous cuts you can make because we want to make sure it's right. So now we're just going to put it back up, see how it looks. Adjust the camera a little bit. All right. Whew. This is stressful right here. So now we'll put it against the wall, because that's where this one goes. About there. All right, so this looks where we want our stringer to rest. I measured from the top to see what my rise will be. It's about 9 7/8. This one's 9 3/4. This one's 9 3/4. And we're perfectly flat in each one of these runs. So that's good. And then I measured my distance to this beam. So the distance to the beam is now 74 inches, including the thread height. This one clears, so we had no problem there, so I'm happy with that, because originally I think we were like 65 inches or so to the beam, and that was not really good at all. So now we're, if we look at 74 inches, we are exactly 6'2". The code is 80, 6'8". But with a historic house, we can get some leniency because, the original steps were a lot steeper, and we had to put the beams in place to clean up the structure because it was just, very unsafe with a 28-foot span going across. So I think this is a good setup. I think we'll be okay. All right, so now we're gonna move this second stringer up. And we're gonna use this first stringer as a template. So we'll move that over as well. Push this back so we have a little bit of balance. Now it's just the fact of getting everything lined up. So we make the right cut. We make sure we do this right. We make no mistakes. They were templates off of each other to begin with. But it's just time to slow down, forget about recording and things of that nature, because we want to get this right. All right, so next step is to put the stringers on the wall and just make sure everything works out well. Everything's aligned against the wall. Then I'll spread everything out and mount it. So let's just start with this stringer right here. Get the right one that goes against the wall. Put it in the order that it was originally. So that would be this stringer right here. Like I said, working one man, it's a little tough as you can see, but we'll get it done. All right, that goes there. This stringer is next. So far it's looking good. Everything's lining up the way it should. Then the last stringer. The next step, what we're going to do is we're going to spread these stringers out to where they go within the stairwell all the way down to the floor, and just kind of see how it lays out. And we're going to take a level across the 3 stringers to make sure everything's even. And we're going to see if it's even with the stair rise as well as the step itself, right? So this one's going to go all the way to the end. This one's going in the middle. All right, so what I want to do is just show you the cuts I made to this stringer and show you that it's very flush with the metal brace that we put in place. Okay, there's no gaps. Everything looks good. Right down to the floor. Let's look at the gaps in the floor just to make sure. It looks very good. There's no gap on the floor, which is good. So that's going to be the stringer we're going to use to align all the other stringers. All right, so one last thing to do on this staircase is to look at that laser level line and mark the top of the stringers. It's where this stuff will go on the metal plate. very important. All right, see my lines? Yep, right there. My line over here, right there. Nice. All right, so here's my marks for tomorrow, if you can see them. So that mark right there is where I need to line it up. So I'm going to drill some holes in this tomorrow. The back plate. Then we'll come around the front. And what we'll do is we'll put some brackets in between each of these stringers to reinforce it a little bit more. So that's for tomorrow. All right, folks, you can see we're in the middle of our install of moving the stringers back. What I did is I put these brackets on for each of the end of the stringers so they will not move. Most people put like, a 2x4 on the end and nail everything in a 2x4, but to me this is a lot stronger, cleaner design, and this works out well. It doesn't take a lot of meat out of the stringers as well, because sometimes you'll take a lot of meat out if you have narrow stringers and you'll have like not too much there. So this works out really well. Been doing this for a while. I like it. It's nice and solid. It's not moving anywhere. So now we have to move up to the top side and do that work. All right, folks, we're at the top side. So what I want to do is just measure where my stringers are going. Obviously this one in the middle needs to be in the middle. So it needs to be 16 1/4, which is right here. I know the lighting situation is not the best. And I just want to make sure that that line is straight because my steel could be a little bit off. Which it is, but just a touch. So we'll retrace that line. Get this thing to stop moving. All right, there's where I want to be. Move that over to the center. And obviously these two are going to be on the edges. But what I want to do is just hit the center of where these things lie. It's about 1 7/8. So it's going to be almost 1 inch. So let's just do 15/16. That will be the center. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I have to drill a hole through this 3/8 inch steel, which I got some new bits for because it ain't going to be fun. And then we're going to put screws here, but I do want to bevel it as well so the screws sunk in. So let's get to that. I'll just slide that over so I don't hit my piece of wood as I'm drilling. So there you see the top side, and what we've done is we've recessed all these screws. You see they're staggered, so prevents cracks going all the way down vertically. And we also have some bolts on this side, so it's a very secure connection. I'm just gonna go ahead and start putting these temporary threads in. All right, folks, I'm about to present the staircase move. It's been a challenge. I'm glad it's over with. And this thing was a bear. I mean, to move this thing over, just one step, so we can clear that beam right there. It was one of the hardest things I've done so far in this renovation. And let me show you what it looks like. All right, folks, isn't that a beauty? We have this staircase done. And there's the bolts staggered on the top. It's all tied in really well with brackets. And over here on the bottom, we have brackets. And walking up, it's all tied in real nice up on top. And that can transverse into the room we were working on up here. We're working on the cabinet drawers right now, as you can see, but this is sweet. I'm just glad it's over. I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's a thing of beauty, at least in my eyes. Thanks for watching.